Hi, this is Carl from Web Courses Bangkok, and welcome to the final in the series of the Web Design Beginner screencasts. This screencast is all about CSS. It's the exciting part of creating your first website by making the design come to life. So, let's get started. So first of all, instead of Dreamweaver, we're actually going to open up Photoshop. So the Photoshop file is what we're going to be using to find out all the information we need to do the CSS. For example, the colors that we're going to use, the text size, and also the amount of text will affect how much CSS spacing we have when we do the code. So if we look here, we can be able to see the color here. So for example, if I want to find out what that color is, I can use the color picker, which is on the left hand side, click on the color, and I can click here at the bottom left hand corner to find this. And that actually goes into our code. So let's have a look what we're going to be doing. So here's the website that we're actually going to be creating, and this is what we left off with last week. Just the raw HTML. As you can see, it's all left aligned, it's all Times New Roman, it's all black, and it's all boring. So what we're going to do now is put some CSS little tricks and some skills, and then we'll be able to turn it into something like this. And this is what we want. Something clean, easy to read, and it also uses a multiple column here. We can see that this is on the right, and so are these images. So all this is controlled by the CSS. So turning from this into this just takes a little bit of CSS. And if you want to take a quick peek at what we're going to be creating today, right click on here, which is the page, and then go to View Page Source. And then you'll see the HTML. Now that's something we've done before. Now if you're in the wonderful Chrome browser, you can then click on the style sheet here. Click, and this is the code that we're going to be writing today. It's not so much, and it's not that complicated, especially if you break it down into the small parts. Let's have a look at the first part. Here, body. Now all we're saying is that we want to change something about the body tag. Below we say how we want to change it. What we're going to change first is the color of the background. And there's our code again. So we got that from Photoshop. So you can see now the connection between Photoshop and the actual code. So now that we know what we're going to be doing, let's get started. So just open up Dreamweaver. And where we left off was on the right hand side here we've got our project. Now if you've been doing other projects in the meantime, you might need to select the project from the drop down. As you can see here, we've got our Facebook landing pages and various other things that we've been working on. So gradually, as you do more and more projects, you'll see more and more appear here. The one that we're interested in is in the beginner web design. Then just click on the index file, and here we are, back to where we were last week, ready to do our CSS. Now the nice thing about CSS is it's step by step. So for example, we're going to be changing the body, then the container, and then the header. And we'll gradually go through top to bottom, changing things as we go. Now one thing I do want you to promise me is every time you write a line of CSS, please check it in the browser. As you get better and better with CSS, you'll understand the kind of things that is happening, but as we want you to do in this screencast, I'd like you to visualize exactly what the code is doing. Right, to do CSS, it's very easy. You just do File and New, and then select CSS from the page type, and then click Create. You now got your CSS document. Now again, Dreamweaver's helping us. It's got a couple of extra things on there, and we're going to leave them be. First thing I like to do is start off with the body. So I'm going to write body. And then I do open and close braces. Every single time you write a CSS line, I want you to open and close those braces. Because if you forget the end, you mess everything else up. Now I'm going to move to the left hand side using my arrow key and then press enter. And again, Dreamweaver is showing us how helpful it can be. Now personally, I do not remember every single CSS command. It's just too many. So that's why Dreamweaver helps us. Now I've got an idea of what I want to change, and one of those things is the background color. So I'm going to move down and go to color and press enter. Now what I can do is move down again and go to color and choose the color picker. Unfortunately, I don't remember the code that we used before, so I need to go back to my Photoshop and reference it. So keep your Photoshop file open whenever you're doing any CSS. So I'm going to click back on Photoshop now, and there we are. Here's my color picker already. And if it wasn't ready, all I do is press I or use the toolbar, click on the color, and then on the color icon at the bottom left hand corner. And there we go. So I've got my color code now, which I can highlight, Control and C to copy, and then back to Dreamweaver, do a hash sign to make sure it's a color, and then Control and V, and there we go. Now here's the important part. At every line you do of CSS, you need to do a semicolon, like so. Now just press enter and you're ready to write the next thing. Now here's one of first of many little tricks that I'd like to show you. Now what we don't like to do in web design is write too much. Writing too much means too much code. Too much code means a slow, bloated website. So what we're going to do now is save ourselves a lot of time, and we're going to apply the font to the body. Now what that means through inheritance is that everything else inside the body will automatically inherit that font. In other words, we don't have to keep repeating ourselves all the time. So I'm going to go to FON. It's not helping me. No problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete back to the last thing I did and then press enter. So don't worry if it stops helping you, because you can always go back and start again. Alternatively, for PC users, you can press Control and space. So let's get back to it. Font family looks interesting. I'm going to move down with my arrow key and press enter. Now the one we're looking for today is Lucida Sans. I'm going to move down here and press enter. Now if you want to use other fonts other than the web safe ones here, then you'll need to install something like Google Fonts or something like Typekit. So semicolon at the end and press enter, and then I'm going to press delete. Now let's just have a quick look at what we've just done. First of all, we did the body. So we said what we want to change. Whenever you're doing CSS, think about what you want to change. Anything here pertains to something in here. So you can see there's a body, right? So if there wasn't a body HTML, there wouldn't be a body in the CSS. You have to reference the same thing. It has to be called the same thing. Then what we did is we pressed enter, and Dreamweaver started to help us, where we started saying, right, we want to do the background color. Now like I said, we might not remember everything, but we've got an idea. So we hit background and it showed us color. We referenced the color from Photoshop, and then we put a semicolon at the end. Now something you'll notice, and this is something really useful when I'm teaching, which is I can automatically see if anyone's missed anything because of the bright colors that Dreamweaver puts onto the code. Again, here I can see, there it is, and there's the end, like a purple pinky color. Alright, so look out for that, and that will help you to stop making any code errors. Right, we're ready now to save our CSS file and then attach it to our HTML. Now one thing we are going to be doing is only doing one CSS. We may have 5 pages down here, but we're only going to have one CSS that controls all of these, and that's the real power of CSS. Right, so we're going to go to File and then Save As, and we're going to call it stylesheet.css. Make sure you're in the beginner root folder, but because you've already got your project selected on the right hand side, Dreamweaver will automatically put you in the right place. So just click Save. Great, now we're ready to attach it. So we're going to use the nice tab system to go back to our HTML. Now we can do this a number of different ways. We can do it the hard way or the easy way. Now let me show you first the hard way, the one that you have to remember a lot of code, and then I want you to do is do it the easy way. So over to line 6, just above the header. There we go. Great, so I've got a nice space there. So you'll notice that the reference to the CSS will go inside the header tag. Yeah, you don't want to see the reference. You don't want to see something like, oh, here's the style sheet on your website. You just want it to work. So that's why we put it in the header. Great, so what we're going to do is we're going to do link space, href, enter, enter. Then I'm going to select my style sheet. I'm then going to give it a type. So type, and it's going to be text CSS. I need a relation, which is a style sheet. That's how it relates to this. And what you can do later, I'm just going to click on code view so we can see more. What you can do later is you can actually do media. So clicking on media, we have all these. Now these are really interesting, especially print as well. What you can do is you can actually do print friendly versions, which means when you do a style sheet it can be specifically to look nice for when you print it out. The one we're doing today is screen, but have a guess what handheld is. But maybe that's for another screencast. Alright, so screen, space, and then finish it off, a bit like you would do with an image, as you can see here. So let me just go over that again. We've got a link, where it is, what it is, the relation to what we're doing, and the type of thing that we want it to display on. Now, like I said, that's the hard way. Let me show you the easy way. Just going to delete that. Easy. So I'm just going to hit refresh over here. Now I want you to make sure that you've got the CSS styles panel open. If you don't, you can find it under Window, CSS styles. So click on refresh, and then look for this icon here. It's called Attach Style Sheet. Click, browse, select your style sheet, click OK, and then click OK. And then if we go now to split view, wonderful, it's worked. And that is how you attach a style sheet. Now first of all, what I want to do is just test in my browser to see if that's worked. So I'm going to go to the preview, and I'm just going to preview in Chrome, and it will ask me if I save. It might also ask you to save the style sheet if you've changed that as well. In both instances, click yes. And there we go. So we can see we're getting somewhere already. Now it might not be amazing. This is what we started off with, and this is where we are now. Alright, so let's keep that in mind, and we're going to keep going, because this is what we're aiming for. So let's go back to Dreamweaver now. Now the wonderful thing about Dreamweaver is you can actually do two things at once, and that is write CSS and see how it's changing. So right now we are in source code view. Now that we've attached the style sheet, we can then click on style sheet on the left hand side here, just below here, and see it. Now something that does confuse people is that we have two. This one is the same thing. The only thing is that this is kind of in full view. So what I'd like you to do in this instance is close this tab down. It just helps you stop getting confused. So source code, the HTML, style sheet, CSS. Easy peasy. Now we're ready to keep going. So let's have a look now. What's next? And I can find that out in the source code. Oh, there it is. Container. So like I said, top to bottom, nice and easy. Back to style sheet, and we're going to go ahead with this. Right, so first of all I'm going to say what I want to change. Now I want to change a div, and it's called hash container, open close. Now let's look at this. Div is the type of tag that we're going to be changing. But there's many divs. There's many divs in our design. We need to say that we want to change just a specific one. Now this one is called container, and it's given an ID. An ID means that it's just this one. It's a unique thing, a unique part of the website. Often web designers say that IDs is used for things like hierarchical elements or structural elements, things like sidebars, headers, navigation, stuff like that. Alright, so if I now look in my source code, I should see something like div ID container. Ah, there you go. So you can see that connection. Right, so now I'm going to go back to my style sheet and I can start changing it. Now I've already referenced this from the design that we did earlier in Photoshop, so I'm going to go ahead and add in the details. Press enter, and I'm going to do a width of 740 pixels. Okay, now where did we find that out? Let's go and have a look. So go back to your Photoshop, and we're going to measure this now. To do that, just select the marquee tool here. Then you need to have the info panel open. So go to Window and then Info. Once you've done that, just choose one of the parts. Now I'm going to choose the footer because it's nice and easy to see. So right from the edge all the way over here, and there we go. It's just about 700. This one's about 752. In the code we're going to be doing it 740. Okay, so you can measure everything here. It's very, very important. So again, you can measure the spaces as well. So I'm going to look at this. So I'm just going to measure the space from there, top of the navigation there. So it's around about 24 pixels. And again, in the code, we're going to be using around about 30. So you can get an approximation, or you can get it absolutely perfect, depending on what you're designing. So we're going to go with a width of 740. Press enter, and then I'm going to do a padding of 30 pixels, followed by a margin, and then I'm going to do 60 pixels auto. And I'm going to go over that now. So what we've done is we've given their width. Now the container is a thing in the middle. So if I go to design view, you'll see that now. This is the container, the yellow line. Okay? Then here we did a padding of 30, and that's the space from here to here, the space inside the box. Now we do a margin of 60 auto. Now this is a clever way of putting the design in the middle of the page. 60 top, 60 bottom, but the left and right are auto, and let me show you why. So I'm just going to click File, Save All, and then I'm going to go back to my browser and refresh, and there we go. So you can see now that the browser, if I move this in, it still stays in the middle. Alright, so it doesn't matter the size of anybody's browser. Okay, and that's why we do auto, so it's automatically the same on the left and on the right. The top and bottom, however, they're 60 pixels. So back to Dreamweaver, and then I'm just going to click on split view. So you can see here width 740, padding 30, margin 60 top and bottom, auto left and right. And now we're ready to start it. Now if I do one last thing, I'm sure it's going to make it really clear, and that is background color white. Okay, so I'm going to save that, click on the right, and you'll see update. Better still, go to your browser and hit refresh. Now I would want to say is always trust your browser, don't always trust Dreamweaver. Your browser's your best friend. Alright, so hopefully now you're starting to see a website take shape. Now we've come back to Dreamweaver, and I want you to add something because we're going to add a nice shadow around the side. But the nice thing is that we might add a shadow to other things when we're doing our website, and this is where a class comes in. So here we talked about ID, and now we're going to talk about a class. A class is a type of thing that you use when you want to do it more than once. An ID is only once. So back to source code, click just here to the right of container, not inside the speech marks, and do class shadow. Okay, so we'll be able to add this class to something else. So in an element you can have both ID and the class. So back to style sheet, and now we're going to do our very first class, which is very easy. It's just dot and then the name. Alright, open close. Now we need to find the code for this, so we're going to go to a special website. That website is css3generator.com. Once you're there, you can do the drop down and go to box shadow. Now what we're going to be doing is going to the horizontal length 0, vertical length 0, and the reason we're doing that is because we want the shadow to be directly behind. We don't want it to be to the right or to the left, up or down. We want it to be directly behind it. The blur radius is 30, and if you remember from other screencasts, that's exactly what we put into Photoshop. Again, spread is 0 because we want it to be a nice smooth gradient of the shadow, and the shadow color is, we're going to give it a hex value. Now the hex value I'm going to be using is 333333, so it's like a nice dark color here. Now move down, and here's the code that we need to make it work. Now again, like I said, CSS, I don't remember everything to do with it, and that's why I'm using this nice tool to help me. So I'm just going to copy this, Control and C, back to Dreamweaver, and then inside Shadow, press Enter and paste Control and V. Enter again, and now I'm just going to tab these over just to make them nice and neat, just like that. Now whenever you add a name here, it must relate to something in the source code. So class, again, is something that we're going to be using time and time again, especially on the portfolio page, so that's why we used a class. If you think you're only going to be using it once, or it's a part of the structure of the page, then you need to use an ID. So let's have a look at how that looks. So again, I'm going to save, but that only saves this file here. My style sheet still needs saving. So go to your style sheet, and again, Control and S, Command and S if you're on a Mac. Select your browser, and I'm going to move back to our page on here, and then refresh. And there we go, we've got a lovely shadow now. Brilliant. Alright, so it looks really nice. Really lifts it from the page. So the next thing on our list is our header, which is this part here. Right, let's get going. So back to Dreamweaver, and then we can move down to the next one. So this one is just header. Alright, now isn't that interesting? We've got a dot, a hash, and then none. Now the difference is we're referencing a HTML tag. Here we're referencing a class, and here we're referencing an ID. So if you're just referencing just the tag itself, you don't need to put anything before it. Right, so go inside header, press enter, and we're just going to do text, TEX, and then enter, move down to center, semicolon, enter, or return for Mac users, and then backspace. I really like to have my CSS nice and neat because CSS can get quite long, so it's important to be able to read it quickly. Again, Control and S, and then we can click on the right hand side, and we'll see it change as well. If we go back to our browser, hit refresh, and that's changed as well, nicely in the middle, okay? Back to Dreamweaver, and we're ready. Now, the nice thing about this, I want to show you something first. You don't need to follow me with this part, it's just a demonstration. So what I want to change is this. Now I know that this is a P tag, and so is this. So I'm going to change something about this. So I want to change the size of this one. Alright, so I'm going to go tab over, header, space, P, open close brackets. Now what we're doing there is we're changing all the paragraph text inside the header. Alright, let's look at the source code. We're changing this inside this. Okay, so back to style sheet. Now I'm first of all going to do font, family, size, and then 18 pixels. There we go. Now you can see both have got bigger. Now let me think here, your name, I actually want that to be 72, so let's try that. 72. Ah, that's not what I want. I don't want them both to change. I need to be able to get hold of them individually. And that's why in the last screencast we did the following. We added a class. So what we're going to do is we're going to change tagline and title individually. And that's the beauty of what we've added. We've been able to individualize each of the tags inside an area. Back to style sheet. So let me start again. I'm just going to delete this and go back to where we were. Right, now press tab, and I want you to follow me with this one. So header, and then we're going to change dot tagline, open close. So the tagline, what I want to do is font size 18 pixels. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter and then backspace. Click to the right. Brilliant. So let's do that again, but we'll do it for title now. So enter, enter. Alright. Now we're tabbing over. The reason for this is so we can see that these things inside here. Whenever you see a tab with web design, it means it's within it. It's inside it. Alright. So header dot title, open close, and then we're going to do font size 72 pixels, and then click on the right hand side. Now I'm just going to save that, Control and S. Now here's why we don't trust Dreamweaver. On here it looks quite nice, it looks just enough space and it looks all fine, but if I go back to my browser and then hit refresh, the line's much bigger. So like I said, don't trust Dreamweaver, always trust your browser. So we need to remove this. We need to remove these spaces between them. Elements on a page always have margin, and that's what we're going to be changing now. Space inside here, like this around this box, is padding, but space away from something is margin. Alright, so I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver and we're going to change this. So I'm going to do margin 10 pixels at the top, 0 at the right, 0 in bottom, and 0 on the left. Now it's very easy to remember that. You've got 4 numbers. You've got top, right, bottom, and left. Alright? And then on the title, add margin 0 pixels. Like so. There you go. Alright? So if I do Control and S, back to my browser, and hit refresh. Perfect. Alright? That's exactly what we want. Right, the next thing on our list then is actually our navigation. So I'm going to move down. Now, the navigation is comprised of 3 areas, alright, and 4 including the link. So that's what we're going to tackle one by one. So go back to source code and I'm going to show you this. Number 1, we're going to change the nav. We're going to change the specific element of the UL nav. We're then going to look at the LI. Because remember, we want these in line and we don't want these ugly bullet points. And then we want to change the link. So we've got 1, 2, and then 3. So we've got about 3 things to write about to make our navigation exactly how we want. And again, this is very important. After each line you check in the browser. Now before we do anything, let's have a quick look at Photoshop, just so we know what we're doing. Now here we are. So it looks like what we're going to be doing is 2 lines above and below. We need to change the text size and also the color when it's on hover there. And so we also need to change it so when we put our mouse over, the background changes. So we've got a couple of things to do there, but let's do it step by step. Back to Dreamweaver, and we're going to have a look at this first, UL nav. So we've done this before. We did ID container, and now we're going to do it for this one. So onto style sheet, we're going to go back here. So we're going to do UL hash nav, and then open and close. Now we're going to do a number of different things to this. The first one we're going to do is borders. So I'm going to press enter. I'm going to do border 1 pixel solid black. Okay, so you can imagine 1 pixel is the size, solid is the type, so it's just a solid line, and black is the color. Right, now the thing is with that is, if I click on the right hand side, it goes on the left and the right as well. So we need to be able to do just the top and the bottom. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to do border hyphen top. And there we go. Alright, so as you can imagine, we're now going to do the bottom one, so I'm going to copy this one, just because I'm lazy. Alright, and then press enter, and I'm going to change this one here to be border bottom. And there we go on the right hand side, clicking, and we've got our 2 lines. See, this is what I like about CSS, it's just step by step. Take your time with it. Alright, so again, check in our browser, Control and S, and then go to your browser, and then refresh. Yeah, not bad. We're getting there at least. Alright, so next thing I want to tackle then is putting things in the center, and then we're going to have a look at the spacing, because the rest of the thing that we're going to do is all going to be on the LIs and the A, so we just need to finish off this UL first. Next thing we want to do is text align center. Alright, as you can imagine, that puts it in the middle. And then we're going to go for margin. Now I've already worked this out for you, so it's 15 pixels at the top, okay, and then 0 pixels to the right, and then 30 pixels on the bottom, and then 0 pixels there. Okay, click. So what that means is on the top here, from the line up, there's 15 pixels. On the right and left there's no spacing, and then here there's 30 pixels. And as you can see, the space here from the line to the border, the banner, sorry, and then here to the banner, yeah, it's all the same. And that's a nice thing about quality web design, is that it all looks nice and simple and nice and equal. Save that, back to your browser, and hit refresh again. Alright, okay, so we're ready to move on now. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the LIs. But before we do that, we just need to add a few more little things to the UL. Now, one of the things that happens is when you have a UL, it has an automatic padding, and we need this to be precisely in the middle. So let's get rid of that now. So I'm just going to click on the end and do padding 0 pixels, and then I'm going to give it a fixed height, and the height is 48 pixels. And again, the reason I know this is I've built it before, and you'll be able to see the spacing for yourself. So there's the spacing that we have, which is just the same as here if you measure it. Alright, so you can always measure it yourself. Back to Dreamweaver, and then we're on. So we've added our borders, we put the text in the middle, we added some space around the sides here for the navigation. We removed the automatic padding, and then we gave it a height, so that means that when we finish our coding, it's going to be exactly how we want it. Great, so now we've done the UL. Over to our browser and hit refresh. Yeah, not bad. It's getting closer. Still not perfect, but definitely getting closer. We're now moving on to the LI. So go back to Dreamweaver, and then we're just going to press enter and tab over again. So UL #nav space LI, and we've done this before. Alright, if I go up to the top here, we can see we did header tagline. Now that means the tagline inside the header. This means the LI inside the UL. So again, I'm just going to finish this off, open and close. Right, we'll do a couple of things here. First of all, list style none. Now just do quickly Control and S for me, and then go back to your browser and refresh. So you'll see that the list styles have gone from the left hand side here. Definitely getting closer. Now the next thing we need to do is get these to be left aligned so they move across the page like this. So to do that, we first of all need to do display block, because what's happening right now is that each of the items is taking up enough space to go right across here, taking up the full amount. Alright, so if I click now, they take up just this. We've got these blocks that we can now play with. And if I do float left, as you can imagine, they float to the left. So we can space them out. So we're definitely getting closer. Great. So let's space them out now. So we're going to do that using the LI and then the A. So we want to add all the padding and all the spacing on the A. The reason for that is so that it's easier to click. So save. Move down, UL #nav space A. So that means the A inside the UL nav. Open and close. Alright, now we don't need to say UL #nav LI A, because that's just a bit too detailed. Alright, we can keep it nice and simple like this. So now we're changing these links, these blue links here. This is what we're going to change. The first way we're going to change it is removing the underline with text decoration none. Okay, so UL #nav A text decoration none. Click on the right. No more underlines. Now let's do some padding. Alright, so we need to space them out a little bit. So I'm going to do padding 15 pixels. Click to the right. Not bad, not bad. Now the problem is we need to be a bit more precise with this. Alright, so we're going to give it a precise width. So width 118 pixels. Click there. And then we can see it's not changed just yet. Now the reason for that is because we also need to do display block again. Alright, so display block, like so, and then it spaces out. So it's very, very interesting to see that how that works. The reason for it is a little bit complicated, but essentially it's down to the fact that normally you find links within code like this, so it behaves in line. What we're doing is saying that we want to display like a block here like this, and that's why this only works when you do display block. If you're ever having problems with links, do display block and see what happens. So Control and S to save what we're doing, back to our browser and hit refresh. To me that's looking pretty much like we designed it. Alright, let's play with the colors now and then we'll be ready to do our hover. Back to Dreamweaver. So let's change the color now. So I'm just going to move down and just do color black. Very simple. And save. So we're going to have black color now. Now here's where the magic comes in. We need to change this. Alright, so when we put our mouse over it changes. And the way we're going to do that is I'm just going to put this and tidy it up so it's all in line here. And now we're going to use something called a pseudo class, which is ul #nav and then a. Done that before. So we're changing something about the a, and we want to change it when it hovers. When we hover our mouse over, we want to change something about it. Now we want to change the background. So I'm going to open and close. I'm going to do background color black. Now there's no point having a background and the text the same color, so color white. Enter and then save. So if we now refresh and we put our mouse over, as you can see, it nicely fits on there like that. Alright, so that's exactly what we want. Very nice. Okay, so that's our navigation done now. Ready to move on to the text. This next part is all about the section content. So we're going to move down and do section #content. So if I remember correctly, that means that somewhere in the HTML it says section ID content. Let's go search for it. Click on source code. By Jove, what a surprise, and there it is. So you can see there's always a connection. Alright, back to style sheet and off we go. Now what we need to do is we need to style quite a number of things, because we need to style all of the pages so they're very consistent. That means every H1, H2, P, block quote, all these things all need to be nicely styled and consistent throughout your website. So you might find this bit repetitive, but it's good practice. So we're going to do section H1. Nice heading one, we'll do that first. So we'll do a font size of 28 pixels. We're going to do a color, and I'd like you to jot this down. This is kind of like a light grey color, 434343. And let's have a look at that. So click on there, and there we go. It's like a sort of a grey color. Yeah. And then we're going to do font weight normal, and that's essentially taking off the bold. Alright, so I think that looks quite nice. Obviously you can play with the sizes and try with different ones that you like. Maybe you want to go up to 38, alright, or you want to keep it down to 28. So let's move down. Okay, so now we've got the text to do. Alright, so enter, backspace. So now we can move on. We're going to do section #content H2. Now this one is going to be a font size of 22 pixels, and then that same color, and also the same font weight. So why don't we just copy and paste it? So let's do that. So copy and paste. Alright, now nothing changed. Why? The answer is that there isn't a H2 on this page, but there is on the About page, the Portfolio and Services. So what we're actually doing is we're now doing the styles. They're called the generic content styles. Alright? So you can actually go to those pages to see the styles working, but I generally just work with this and then modify them later. Again, let's play with this with H3. So we like to do all the headings first. So section, hash, content, H3. Alright, so we're just going to do font size 18 pixels, and then that same color again. So copy and paste. Interesting. The color seems to be a different one. So as you can see here, color is like a dark blue with the purple here. I can see that now. It's missing this. So this is a great thing to show you in the fact that if you miss the semicolon at the end, the color of this changes. So if you watch, it changes to a lighter blue. Very subtle, but it does help you see what you've done wrong. Okay, so let's just tidy our code up a little bit. Just going to move this over and then enter backspace. We're ready to move on. Now the next part is just the general text, but the general text is a lot of things. It's links, it's lists, and it's also can be table items. So we're going to take care of all of them together. Right, so section, hash, content, P. Now what I don't want to have to do is keep repeating myself, but what I can do is apply the same styles to multiple selectors. This is a selector. This is a style. So I'm just going to do comma and then section, content, A. Section, content, LIs. And I can also be really good and do section, content, TD. Now a TD is when you have a table. It's the text inside a table. Alright, so I'm going to do open and close, and I'm going to do all the same thing, which is font size 14 pixels and line height 24 pixels. And let's have a look at what that's done. So click on the right and you can see it's nice and small, easy to read, and the spacing, the line height, makes it very easy to read. And what we've done is we've done it for P's, A's, which are links, list items, and even tables if we have those in our website. So let's tidy that up. Excellent. Definitely making progress. Now the last one we want to be able to change is the links, and we can see a link here. Here's a perfect example. If you don't have a link in your text, simply highlight it and then go down to link here in the properties bar and just put a hash sign, and then you have a link. So let's style that one now. So we're going to do section, content, A. So we're specifically styling just the A. Open and close, and then we're going to do color green. Click on the right. Nice and green. So the next thing we want to do now, we want to remove the text decoration. But something that's good for accessibility and usability is when you put your mouse over a link, it changes. So let me show you what that means in the browser. So I'm just going to refresh. So as you can see here, this link changes. Alright, but this one doesn't. So I don't really know if it's a link or not. So that's where this comes in. Section, content, A, comma, hover. Remember that's a pseudo class that we did before. And I'm just going to do text decoration, underline. So the underline comes back on when you put your mouse over it. Press enter, backspace, and then we're on the same line again. Nice and easy. So let's try that now. I'm going to save. Back to browser, refresh, and there we go. There's our line. It definitely looks like a link now. Now one problem we are having is this is on the left hand side. So we're going to change that. Now we already prepared ourselves. If I go to source code, click on this image and move over to the right hand side, you'll see the class float right. Now we've done floats before, but we did float left, so I don't think it's a stretch of your imagination to imagine what float right can do. So let's do that one. Now I'm going to go back to style sheet. So dot, because it was a class, float right, open and close, and then float right. So it's called the same thing as what it does. It does exactly what it says on the tin, and that makes life easy. Alright, so I'm going to press backspace. Click on the right. Interesting. These moved as well. Why? Well, we actually prepared ourselves for that. Go to source code, and we already did it on those as well. So you can also pre-prepare yourself. Always be one step ahead when you're a web designer. Right, so now what we need to do is go back to our style sheet, save, and check in our browser. How does it look? Yeah, it's looking pretty close. So if we go back to Photoshop, move down, yeah, definitely pretty close. And back to Dreamweaver. So we're doing really well. Right, the next one then is footer. Now the footer is just a tag, so we just have to do footer, open, close. And then we're going to do background color, and this is going to be hash BEE08E semicolon. Alright, and again that is the color that we take from here. Alright, click on the right, and there we go. Now here again is another thing that Dreamweaver does. It doesn't look like it's worked. It's looked like it's just worked for the text. But if I save this, go back to the browser and hit refresh, you can see it's worked. It's all for the whole line here. Alright, so now what we need to do is go back to here. Alright, and then we're going to add a few things. So padding 15 pixels for 1. Click on the right. So now we've got some padding around the footer, and then we're going to add a margin because we want it to be away from the things at the top. We don't want anything to go over it, so we're going to do margin top 30 pixels. Remember what we're doing here is we're putting space on the top here. So if I save and then refresh, you can see we've got some space here, and now this is working perfectly. Alright, so a lot happens when you add a little bit of padding and margin. Remember, padding is inside here. It's the space from the C to the edge. The margin is the space from here to here. Alright, it's the space on the outside. Now we need to style our P tag. Alright, so we're just going to change the size a little bit. So enter, footer, P. The P inside the footer. Open and close. And then we're going to do font size 14 pixels, and then we're going to do the color, and the color is like a dark green color, so we're going to use 4D711A semicolon. Okay, save and then refresh. There we go, that looks perfect. Alright, now I think we need to maybe add a little bit more padding on that. So we can change that in just a moment. So I'm going to go this. So now we've got padding all the way around, but I want to add more to the top. So I'm going to add 20 pixels here. And then the left and right, I'm going to do 15 pixels. So that means top and bottom has got 20 pixels, left and right has got 15 if you use 2 numbers. 4 numbers means all the way around. Refresh. And there we go. So that's a lot better now. You can see them nice and clear. Great. Back over, and then we're nearly done. Now the next thing we want to do then is we're going to just reduce some of the borders, because sometimes what will happen with older browsers is if these are links here, you actually see the blue border and it can look really ugly. So we're going to remove that now by doing footer space image and then border 0 or none is easy, the best way to do it. Alright, save, and then refresh. And so it actually brings it down a little bit. We're getting rid of that border. And there we go. everything that we need to do. So let's have a recap. Okay, starting from the top. So first of all, we changed the body, we changed the background color, and we added font for everything. Now the nice thing is, if I choose to change the font of my entire website, I just have to change this one line. Then we worked on the container. That's the white box that goes all the way around our website. We gave it a width and a padding. Now interestingly enough, when you add padding, you add width. So the total width is 800 pixels, and that's exactly what we used in the Photoshop screencast. Now the padding is on the inside. If you look here, it's the space here inside. The margin is the spacing on the outside. 60 pixels at the top, and then auto means left and right. We added a background color, and then we started to see the shape of our website. We then wanted a shadow, but we knew that we might use that shadow again, so we used it as a class. So that's why it's dot shadow, and this is hash container because it's an ID. Use it once, use it an ID. Use it many, use a class. So this is what we want. We got this from css3generator.com, and then we used it here to put the shadow on our container. We then just started changing all the text styles, and that was nice and easy because we started off with aligning everything in the middle, and as you can see, it's in the middle. We then wanted to specifically say that the HTML5 and this one were different, so we took advantage of the code that we did last time, and then we used the class here, which was header.tagline, and it means that somewhere in our HTML there's a tagline inside the header. And lo and behold, there is. We then moved down and we had a look at the title, which is 72 pixels, and then we did the really hard bit. The navigation tends to be the hardest. We then first put a border on the top and bottom, and then we put everything in the middle and the text aligned center. And then we added a little bit of space. Remember, this is the UL nav is the space around this part here, not inside. It's got nothing to do with anything inside. It's all about outside. We took away the padding because there's a normal indent, and then we gave it a height to make sure it's exactly what we wanted. We then moved on to the LIs. They're the individual list items. We didn't want those nasty bullet points, so we removed them. We wanted them to take up just enough space so that we could float them together and then space them out later, and that's how we did it. We then moved on to the links. The links were blue and they were underlined, so we got rid of the underline and then we got rid of the color. Then, using padding and width, we got them to be exactly what we wanted, so it fit perfectly right to the end of our navigation. Using the A hover, we were able to change the text and the background color when we put the mouse over the individual item. With the navigation out of the way, we then took our mind onto the individual items here, and these are in our content. So first of all, we had a look at the H1, and then we started looking at all the other headings, preparing ourselves for the other pages. We slowly decreased the font size. We kept the same color, but for the first two, heading 1 and heading 2, we thought it was a bit too bold, so we made the font weight normal. Okay, we moved then on to all the different items, and we didn't want to say this 4 times, so we used a comma. P, A, LI and TD are all size 14 with a line height of 24. We then moved on to the link because we wanted to study that individually. To do that, we gave it this. We gave the selector for A. We changed the color and we changed it to have no underline. But then we thought, well, for usability, we want to show people that this is a link that they can click, so then we did the A hover. We put the underline back. Then we wanted our image on the right, so we float right. Okay. Finally, we moved on to the footer. The footer was one of the easiest things to do. All we needed to change was the background color and some of the details. So first of all, we changed the background color and we added some padding inside the footer. The 2 numbers represent top and bottom, and then this one is left and right. So it means that we have 20 pixels on the top and bottom of the box here, and then 15 pixels on the left and right. We then changed the text inside, changed the size, and we changed the color, and then we removed any borders when it's a linking image, and these are the ones over here. Some of the older browsers put a very ugly blue line around any image that is a link, and since these are both linking to Facebook and Twitter, we want to make sure that those don't come up with an ugly link. So let's have a look at what we've achieved. We've got this when we started from this. So I think we've done really well, and you definitely deserve a pat on the back. So, congratulations, you've just made your first CSS page, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I definitely hope that it gives you a hunger for doing more CSS. Now, just to finish off, I need to show you what the other pages look like. So if we click on About, you can see that there's no styling. Now the reason for that is that we haven't attached the style sheet. So let's look at now attaching all our hard work to the other pages. So let's go back to Dreamweaver, and we're going to open up the first of our other pages, which is About. So click on About. And like I said before, there's an easy way and a hard way. We're going to do it the easy way this time. So we're going to click on Attach Style Sheet. It's already got the name. Click OK. Voila! Done. Let's do that again. Alright. So, but first of all, I'm just going to save. Alright. So click on Save. Now I'm going to do Services. Double click. It looks ugly. We attach the style sheet by clicking on the Attach Style Sheet button. Hey presto, it looks wonderful. So it's a very easy way of quickly attaching the style sheet to all of your other pages. Continue doing that for all of your pages, and then your website will look perfect. Let's have a look. Back to the browser, and then I'm going to hit refresh, and now I can go from Home to About and Services, and it all looks really, really nice. Great, well done. So congratulations, you've finished your first HTML and CSS website. You designed it from scratch through wireframes, through into Photoshop, you sliced and diced, you did the HTML perfect for Google, and then you finished off with a lovely design using the CSS, referencing the Photoshop you did earlier. So you've done a lot. So you'll be able to use all these skills to continue making wonderful websites. And we look forward to seeing you for the next courses. Thanks a lot. Bye.